Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be exploring the world of financial literacy and wealth building.
All right.
And we'll be doing that by looking at excerpts from Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Before You Quit Your Job,
Yeah.
two books by Robert Kiyosaki
Yeah,
that have been really influential in how people think about money.
definitely.
And, given your learner profile, we know that you're not just looking for the basic budgeting tips and tricks.
Right.
You want to really dig deeper.
Yeah,
And uncover those aha moments, like those things that kind of shift your entire perspective on money.
absolutely.
So we'll be focusing on those actionable takeaways.
Yes.
Those nuggets of wisdom you can apply to your own financial journey.
Exactly.
And I think it's interesting because Kiyosaki, he doesn't just talk about money.
No, he doesn't.
He also often kind of touches on these broader life choices,
Mm-hmm.
like the decision to follow a conventional career path or forge your own way.
That's right.
In fact, we'll even be tying in a poem later
Oh, cool.
that explores that very theme of choosing your path.
That's great.
But first, let's get into the heart of Kiyosaki's philosophy,
Okay.
the rich dad versus poor dad concept.
Yeah, the story itself is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures.
Right.
His biological father, who was highly educated,
Yeah.
but struggled financially,
Yeah.
and his friend's father,
Uh-huh.
the quote-unquote rich dad,
Right.
a self-made entrepreneur who taught him a completely different approach to money.
It makes you wonder, right?
Right.
About those lessons that we just kind of absorb from the people around us,
Yes,
even unintentionally.
absolutely.
And the key takeaway that I think Kiyosaki really emphasizes is that the rich don't work for money.
Yeah,
They have money work for them.
we do.
And it all boils down to understanding this fundamental difference between assets and liabilities.
Absolutely.
And, his definition is so simple,
Yeah,
yet profound. An asset puts money in my pocket.
that's it.
A liability takes money out of my pocket.
Simple.
It seems obvious, but
Indeed.
it really challenges, I think, how most people think about their finances.
Yes, for sure.
It's not just about earning a paycheck.
Uh-huh.
It's about building a system where money flows to you,
Yeah,
even when you're not actively working.
right.
Think about it, like your house, for example.
Yeah,
It's typically considered an asset,
right.
but is it really putting money in your pocket?
Yeah, is it?
Or is it pulling money out through your mortgage, property taxes, maintenance?
Uh-huh, good point.
Okay, that's making me rethink some things.
And that's exactly what Kiyosaki wants us to do.
Yeah.
He uses these really vivid stories from his childhood to illustrate these concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the story where he works for Rich Dad for a measly 10 cents an hour,
Oh, yeah.
dusting and stacking cans in a grocery store?
Right. Yeah, you'd think he'd be
Right, yeah.
learning the ins and outs of the retail business. But that's not what Rich Dad was focused on.
Nope.
He wasn't teaching him a trade.
Yeah.
He was teaching him about spotting opportunities.
Right.
Thinking beyond the immediate paycheck.
Exactly.
And that money can be, quote unquote, invented
Yes.
by creating value and solving problems,
Absolutely.
not just trading time for dollars.
That's right.
So instead of getting stuck in that mindset of work hard, get paid,
Yeah.
Kiyosaki was learning to think about how to make money work for him.
Exactly.
It's almost like an entrepreneurial boot camp,
Yeah.
but disguised as a boring summer job.
That's exactly what it is.
And that leads us to the next big idea.
Mhm.
Mind your own business.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily about becoming an entrepreneur overnight,
Right.
right? It's about building an asset column alongside your job,
Yeah.
gradually creating those multiple streams of income so you're not reliant on a single paycheck.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where people get tripped up because they hear mind your own business
Yeah.
and they think I need to quit my job tomorrow
Right.
and start a company.
That's not what he's saying at all.
But Kiyosaki, he argues that building an asset column should be this ongoing process,
It should. Yeah.
something you do in parallel
Yeah.
with your current work.
Yeah.
And he uses the example of Ray Kroc,
Oh.
the founder of McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people associate him with burgers and fries,
Right.
but his real wealth came from real estate. Really?
Yeah. He strategically bought the land underneath each McDonald's franchise,
Oh, wow.
understanding that owning those assets would generate long-term value.
So he wasn't just building a fast food empire. He was building a real estate portfolio at the same time.
That's right. That's what he was doing.
That's brilliant.
It is.
What other examples of assets does he give?
Businesses that don't require your constant presence.
Okay.
Stocks, bonds,
Yeah.
income-generating real estate, intellectual property like royalty, anything that puts money in your pocket.
Right.
Whether through appreciation or income generation.
So it's not just about
how
much money you make.
That's right.
It's about what that money is doing for you.
Exactly.
Working for you.
Yeah.
It's not about looking rich.
No.
It's about having your money work hard enough that you don't have to.
That you don't have to.
You know, he argues that true luxury is the reward for investing in assets.
Yes.
Not buying things on credit to impress others.
Exactly.
It's that old saying, you can be rich or you can look rich, but you can't be both.
Yep.
Now, we've talked about the core philosophy and building an asset column. But the big question is, how do we actually do that?
How do you do it?
And this is where financial intelligence comes in.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about being good with numbers then.
It's not just about being good with numbers.
Right.
It's about seeing opportunities that others miss. It's about understanding financial systems to your advantage. It's not just about being good at math. It's about thinking differently about money.
Okay, so for someone starting out,
yeah,
what does cultivating financial intelligence even look like?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, is it about reading every financial news article or meticulously tracking every penny?
I think it's more about training yourself to see the world through a different lens.
Okay.
You know, he shares the story of buying a house for $50,000
Wow.
that his neighbor bought for $100,000
Okay.
simply because he knew where to look for deals.
Interesting.
He also talks about creating $190,000 in assets with little money and low risk.
Wow.
He basically, invented money using his understanding of the market.
Okay, so how does someone starting out even begin to develop that kind of financial intelligence?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of learning and mastering financial formulas.
Okay.
Like calculating return on investment. Understanding how compounding works. He believes anyone can learn these formulas, regardless of their background.
Okay.
But it's not just about the technical stuff.
Right.
He also talks a lot about overcoming those mental barriers. That hold people back.
And I think that's so important because you can have all the knowledge and tools in the world, but if you're held back by fear or limiting beliefs, it's hard to take action.
Exactly.
And he identifies fear, cynicism, and laziness as major roadblocks.
They are.
And he talks about the, fear of fixing toilets.
Yeah.
When it comes to real estate, which is humorous.
It is.
But it speaks to this larger fear of taking on challenges.
That's right.
And stepping outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Right? There's that initial excitement about a new opportunity.
Yes.
And then those doubts creep in. Like, what if I fail? What if I make a mistake?
Right.
What if I don't know what I'm doing?
What if?
And he addresses that chicken little thinking. Constantly worrying about things going wrong. And missing out on opportunities because of that negative outlook.
Yes.
And he contrasts this with the mindset of savvy investors who see opportunity in times of fear.
That's it.
Recognizing that market downturns often present the best buying opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's about shifting your perspective.
It is.
Seeing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than reasons to give up.
That's right.
But what about that laziness roadblock? I think we all struggle with procrastination or feeling overwhelmed sometimes.
We do.
And Kiyosaki, he believes that laziness can be overcome by tapping into your desire.
Yes.
He uses the word greed in a positive sense. That burning desire to achieve financial freedom and create a better life for yourself.
Yes.
So it's about getting clear on your why.
It is.
Like, why do you want to achieve financial freedom?
Yeah.
What are your dreams?
That's right.
What are your aspirations? What are you working towards?
That's it.
What are you running towards? Not just running away from.
Absolutely, yes.
And Kiyosaki, he emphasizes the importance of seeking knowledge and mentorship along the way.
He does.
He's a big believer in continuous learning.
Yes.
Even if it means feeling out of your league at times. He talks about taking advanced investment classes even though he felt intimidated, constantly pushing himself to learn new things.
Exactly.
And remember that anecdote about Warren Buffett? He talks about gaining incredible insights just from repeatedly listening to a 5-minute segment of a recording.
Yeah.
It highlights the power of focus.
It does.
And extracting wisdom
Right.
from even the smallest bits of information.
Yeah.
And it shows that mentorship doesn't always have to be a formal relationship.
Absolutely.
You can learn from anyone who has achieved what you aspire to, whether it's through observing their actions or studying their words.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he also stresses the importance of surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, learning from both successful and struggling individuals.
Right.
Like, there's a valuable lesson to be learned from everyone's experience.
There is.
And that makes me think of the poem you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
About choosing paths.
Yeah.
It seems like Kiyosaki's journey and the lessons he shares are all about choosing a less conventional path.
Yeah.
One that leads to financial freedom.
It is.
So let's explore that connection further.
You're right.
Because that poem, it really speaks to those moments in life where we stand at a crossroads. Right? Facing decisions that could lead us down very different paths.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to financial freedom, those diverging paths could represent the choice between working for money and having money work for you.
Exactly.
One path might be that traditional route. Get a job, save money, hope for a comfortable retirement.
Yeah.
The other might be the path of entrepreneurship, investing, building assets that generate passive income.
That's right.
It's about creating your own financial destiny.
It is.
Not just relying on systems that might not have your best interests at heart.
Right.
Like those golden opportunities Rich Dad was always talking about.
Exactly.
But even if you have the best mentor in the world, it's still up to you to take action.
It is. That's the key.
Kiyosaki encourages readers to take that first step towards financial freedom.
Yeah.
He talks about starting small, like taking a weekend course on real estate or investing a small amount of money.
Right.
It's about building momentum and proving to yourself that you're capable of creating change.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of something he said about mastering skills, particularly selling and marketing.
Yeah.
He believes these are essential in any field, not just business.
He's right.
He's right. Think about it. Whether you're pitching an idea to your boss, negotiating a salary, or even just trying to convince your friend to see a certain movie, those are all forms of selling.
Absolutely.
And he emphasizes the importance of teaching and giving back, too. Right?
He does, yeah.
He believes in creating a cycle of abundance, sharing your knowledge and resources with others.
Right.
He talks about the concept of tithing, the idea that you give first to receive.
Yes.
It's almost like investing in the universe, putting good energy out there, trusting that it will come back to you.
Right.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Financial literacy, building assets, overcoming mental barriers, seeking knowledge. It's a lot to take in. But it's clear that Kiyosaki's approach to wealth building is about so much more than just money.
It is.
It's about mindset, continuous learning, taking control of your financial destiny.
That's right.
But how does all of this translate into actionable steps?
Yeah.
Like, what are some concrete things our listener can do to start applying these principles? I guess that's what we'll be exploring in part 2.
Let's do it. You're right. It can feel a little overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
He throws a lot of big ideas at you.
Yeah.
But he also kind of sprinkles in these really compelling stories and examples that bring those concepts to life.
Right. And it's the stories that I think make the book so engaging.
Yeah.
You know? You remember them long after you finished reading.
You do, yeah.
Like that toothpaste tube story from chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the classic kid entrepreneur tale.
Yeah, 9-year-old Kiyosaki and his friend Mike, they're determined to make money. So they collect empty toothpaste tubes from their neighbors and start like this whole manufacturing operation in Kiyosaki's driveway. They're melting and molding the toothpaste using like hibachi grill and milk cartons.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
What a mess.
I can just picture it.
Just a sticky mess.
And then his dad, bless his heart, gently informs them.
Like, probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, that it's probably not legal to be making toothpaste without, a license and all that.
Right.
But Rich Dad comes in with this amazing response.
Right.
Instead of like scolding them for their failed business venture, he praises their initiative and encourages them to keep going.
Yeah, he tells them, you're only poor if you give up.
Right.
The most important thing is that you did something. Most people only talk and dream of getting rich. You've done something.
And I'm very proud of the two of you.
I will say it again. Keep going. Don't quit.
Powerful stuff. Yeah, it's not about avoiding failure. It's about having the courage to try, to experiment, to learn from your mistakes.
And then there's that story where Kiyosaki, he works for Rich Dad for 3 weeks, earning a measly 10 cents an hour, dusting and stacking cans.
Right.
It's the ultimate test of patience.
It is.
Right. He's frustrated, ready to quit. But Rich Dad, he explains that he's not just teaching him about work ethic.
Right.
He's teaching him about financial literacy.
Yeah.
He's making him confront his own beliefs about money.
Absolutely.
Remember what he tells him. I'm glad you got angry about working for 10 cents an hour. If you hadn't gotten angry and had simply accepted it, I would have to tell you that I could not teach you. You see, true learning takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. Anger is a big part of that formula.
Yeah.
For passion is anger and love combined.
It's true.
He's basically saying that being comfortable, complacent, just going through the motions,
right,
that won't lead you to financial freedom.
It won't.
You need that fire in your belly, that drive to change your circumstances,
right,
and to really push him.
Yeah.
Rich Dad tells Kiyosaki that he'll be working for free for the next 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Kiyosaki's understandably shocked.
Yeah.
But Rich Dad explains that he's creating a situation where Kiyosaki will be forced to think differently about money, to find ways to make it work for him.
That's right.
And that leads to the comic book library. Yeah. Which is such a brilliant example of kid entrepreneur
I know, right?
Ingenuity.
Yeah, they collect discarded comic books.
Yeah.
They create a lending library in Mike's basement.
Yeah.
Charging their friends a small fee to read them.
Right. Just brilliant.
It's simple but effective. Illustration of passive income.
Yeah.
You know, they're creating a system that generates money. Yeah.
Even when they're not actively working.
And the best part is they learn such a valuable lesson from the experience. Like Kiyosaki puts it, we learned to make money work for us. By not getting paid for our work at the store, we were forced to use our imaginations to identify an opportunity to make money.
Yeah.
By starting our own business, the comic book library, we were in control of our own finances, not dependent on an employer.
Right.
The best part was that our business generated money for us, even when we weren't physically there. Our money worked for us.
I love that.
Right.
So good.
These early lessons, they really lay the foundation.
They do.
For Kiyosaki's future success as an entrepreneur and an investor.
Yeah.
And they highlight the importance of starting small, taking action, learning by doing, understanding that money can work for you.
Right.
Instead of the other way around.
Exactly.
Okay, so starting small, even with something like a comic book library, can lead to bigger things. It can.
But what about those who are a bit older?
Yeah.
Maybe already working a 9 to 5.
Yeah, good question.
How can they start building their asset column?
Well, you know, Kiyosaki, he doesn't sugarcoat things.
Right.
He acknowledges that most people will have a job at some point in their lives.
Yeah.
It's not about demonizing work.
No.
But about understanding that a job should be a stepping stone.
Okay.
Not a life sentence.
So it's not necessarily about quitting your job tomorrow.
Right.
It's about having a long-term vision.
Exactly. And in chapter 5, he shares a story about how he, quote unquote, invented money using a real estate strategy during a depressed market.
Okay.
It's a great example of how financial intelligence can create wealth, even in challenging economic times.
So instead of panicking when the market takes a downturn, he sees it as an opportunity.
He does. Right.
He talks about finding houses selling for like significantly below market value due to foreclosures and distressed sellers.
Yep.
And he would buy these houses with very little money down.
Right.
Often using like creative financing strategies.
Yeah.
He'd make minor repairs and improvements.
Yep.
And then quickly resell the houses for a profit.
Right.
Using the proceeds to buy more properties.
Yeah, that's smart.
So he was essentially leveraging the power of the market to his advantage.
He was.
But how can someone with a regular job who maybe hasn't mastered the art of real estate investing apply that same principle?
Well, it's about, you know, finding opportunities within your means.
Okay.
Maybe it's starting a side hustle that aligns with your passions or learning about investing in dividend-paying stocks
Bro.
or exploring the world of online business.
Right.
The key is to take action.
Okay.
Even if it's small.
And to keep learning.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki talks about the importance of constantly expanding your knowledge and skills. He's a big advocate for mentorship.
Yeah.
And one of his stories really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about gaining incredible insights from Warren Buffett.
Really?
Not by attending a seminar or reading a book, but by repeatedly listening to a 5-minute segment of a recording.
Wow.
It's a reminder that mentorship can come from these unexpected places.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the most profound lessons come in these small packages.
They do.
And that focus,
right,
that dedication to extracting wisdom from even the smallest details is key to developing financial intelligence.
It is.
Kiyosaki, he emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, learning from both those who have succeeded and those who have struggled.
Yes, good point.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something to teach you.
Absolutely.
And that there's value in both success and failure.
That's right.
But even with the best mentors and support systems, there are still those internal barriers we have to overcome.
There are, yeah. He talks about how fear, cynicism, and laziness can sabotage our financial goals. So let's start with fear.
Okay.
You know, Kiyosaki, he argues that fear is natural, but we can't let it control our actions.
Right.
Remember his, like, humorous fear of fixing toilets example?
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to real estate?
Yeah.
It represents that larger fear of stepping outside our comfort zones.
And it's so relatable.
It is.
Right? We all have those what ifs
We do.
that hold us back. What if I fail?
Right.
What if I make a mistake? What if I'm not good enough?
What if? What if?
Exactly. And Kiyosaki encourages us to confront those fears head on. To recognize that fear is often based on irrational thoughts and beliefs. And it's about taking action despite the fear, because that's where growth happens.
Exactly.
But what about cynicism? That feeling that the system is rigged, that the odds are stacked against us, that it's just too hard to get ahead. Kiyosaki, he calls it chicken little thinking, always worrying that the sky is falling. And he contrasts that with the mindset of savvy investors who see opportunities in times of uncertainty. They recognize that. Like market downturns often present the best buying opportunities.
Exactly.
So it's about reframing our perspective. Seeing challenges as opportunities for growth. Not reasons to give up.
That's it.
But how do you combat that feeling of laziness? That lack of motivation to even get started. I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
Kiyosaki, he believes that laziness can be overcome by harnessing desire.
Yeah, he calls it greed in the positive sense. That burning desire to achieve financial freedom and build a better life.
It's like finding your why.
It is.
Why do you want to achieve financial freedom?
That's right.
What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are you working towards?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Because when you have a strong why, it fuels your motivation. And it helps you overcome those inevitable setbacks.
So we need to dig deep and uncover that driving force within us.
We do.
But even with a clear why and a burning desire, there's still that learning curve. Like, where do you even begin?
Where do you start? Well, he breaks it down in chapter 8 of Before You Quit Your Job. He outlines 10 steps to awaken your financial genius, which is, I think, a fantastic framework for anyone wanting to, you know, gain control of their finances. Step-by-step guide for financial empowerment.
Yeah, can you walk us through a few of those steps?
Yeah, what's the first step?
Well, the first step is all about finding your why,
Okay.
which we just discussed.
Right.
But he takes it a step further.
Okay.
He talks about having a strong reason or purpose for wanting to be rich. You know, what are those wants and don't wants that fuel your motivation?
It's about being crystal clear on what you're working towards, right?
That's right.
And how financial freedom will enable you to live the life you want.
That's right.
Okay, what's the next step?
Step 2 is about choosing what you learn carefully.
Okay.
He says, you become what you study.
Oh, that's good.
I know, right?
It's a great reminder to be mindful of the information we consume, the skills we develop, the company we keep.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about step 3?
Step 3 focuses on choosing your friends wisely.
Kiyosaki is a firm believer in the power of association.
Right.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and support your goals.
And be wary of those who constantly focus on negativity.
Right, those quote-unquote poor or frightened people, as he calls them, who always have a reason why something won't work.
Okay, so step 4.
Step 4 emphasizes mastering a formula and then learning a new one. It's about continuous learning, always seeking new ways to create value and generate income.
He talks about becoming a type 2 investor, someone who creates investments rather than just buying, pre-packaged ones. What other gems does he offer?
Okay, well, step 5 is all about learning to manage risk.
Okay.
Kiyosaki, he believes that taking calculated risks is essential for wealth building.
Right.
But it's about understanding and managing those risks effectively.
So he encourages people to develop their financial intelligence so they can make informed decisions and minimize losses. And, of course, to accept that failure is part of the process. Every successful investor has experienced losses and setbacks.
Absolutely.
Along the way.
As Kiyosaki puts it, winning means being unafraid to lose.
Yeah, it's about having the courage to take action, even if it means making mistakes along the way.
It does.
So steps 1 through 5 really lay the groundwork for building a solid financial foundation, both mentally and strategically.
It does.
But what about the remaining steps? What other insights does Kiyosaki offer? Yeah, it sounds like steps 6 through 10 kind of get into more the practical aspects of wealth building, like, how to find and leverage the right resources and expertise.
He talks about things like paying your advisors well. It's about recognizing that good advice is valuable and that investing in expert guidance can pay off in the long run. He also mentions the importance of being what he calls an Indian giver.
Now, that sounds a bit provocative.
It does.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he's not talking about literally taking back gifts. He's using it metaphorically to describe a strategy of investing where you aim to recoup your initial investment quickly.
So it's about being strategic and savvy with your investments.
That's right.
Making sure you're not just throwing money away.
Exactly. And then in step 10, he circles back to the importance of teaching what you learn. He believes that teaching is one of the most rewarding things you can do, and that it reinforces your own understanding of a concept. Plus, it's a great way to give back and contribute to the success of others.
So it's about sharing the wealth.
It is.
Both literally and figuratively. Absolutely.
Now I have to ask, what about that poem we talked about earlier? How does that tie into
Good question.
everything we've been discussing?
Remember how we were talking about those diverging paths? The choice between working for money and having money work for you? Well, that poem really captures that sense of being at a crossroads. The speaker in the poem is standing in a wood, faced with two paths, and has to decide which one to take.
It's like those moments in life.
It is.
Where we have to make a choice that will determine the course of our future. And in the context of financial freedom, that choice might be between staying on the traditional path, working a 9 to 5, saving diligently, hoping for a comfortable retirement, or venturing onto a less conventional path, one that involves entrepreneurship, investing, creating multiple streams of income. And the poem speaks to
that feeling of wondering, what if, about the path not taken. It acknowledges that every choice we make closes off other possibilities. So in the context of finances, that what if might sound like, what if I had invested in real estate instead of buying a new car?
Exactly.
Or what if I had started my own business instead of staying in this job I hate? It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
That our choices have consequences.
They do.
And those consequences shape our financial future.
They do.
But it's not about dwelling on past choices. It's about recognizing that we always have the power
That's right.
to make new choices, to course correct,
Mm-hmm.
to forge our own path.
Exactly. And I think that's
Yeah.
what Kiyosaki is ultimately trying to convey
Mm-hmm.
in both Rich Dad, Poor Dad
Yeah.
and Before You Quit Your Job.
Right.
He's providing a roadmap,
Yeah.
a set of tools and principles to help us navigate the world of money.
Mm-hmm.
But he also emphasizes that the journey is ultimately up to us.
So it's not about blindly following Kiyosaki's
Right.
advice.
No.
It's about using it as a framework for making our own informed decisions.
Exactly. He's challenging us to question conventional wisdom,
Yeah.
to think differently about money,
Mhm.
to take ownership of our financial destiny.
And to be brave enough to take that first step, even if it's scary,
Yeah.
even if we're not sure
Right.
where it will lead.
Absolutely. Financial freedom is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be bumps in the road, detours, and wrong turns. But as long as we keep learning, keep growing,
Yeah.
and keep moving forward,
Right.
we're on the right track.
And that's what makes this whole deep dive so exciting.
It is.
It's not just about absorbing information.
Right.
It's about using that information to empower ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to create the life we want,
Mm-hmm.
to achieve financial freedom.
And as Kiyosaki reminds us, the size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire, the size of your dream, and how you handle disappointment along the way.
That's a great quote to end on.
It is.
It's a reminder that achieving financial freedom isn't just about mastering spreadsheets or memorizing formulas. It's about having the courage to dream big, to persevere through challenges, and to never stop learning and growing.
That's right.
So, dear listener, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Before You Quit Your Job.
Definitely.
What resonates with you most?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What insights will you apply to your own financial journey?
Right, what's your next step?
And if you could ask Robert Kiyosaki one question,
Yeah.
what would it be? Remember, the path to financial freedom starts with a single step.
It does.
Take that step today and watch your world transform, Alec. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about charisma.
Oh,
I've got a ton of stuff here. You gave me tons of excerpts from all sorts of books on like psychology and first impressions and communications, and then like even some techniques with, roots in Buddhist compassion practices. So it seems like you're really interested in becoming more charismatic, especially when it comes to navigating those tough conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting to me how much science is actually behind some of this stuff. It seems like common sense, but it's really fascinating how we can use all this these insights to become more effective in our interactions.
Okay, so let's dive right in. One thing that really struck me going through all this stuff is this idea that first impressions, like they're made so quickly.
Yeah.
And then they can be surprisingly hard to shake.
Right.
I mean, we all know that first impressions matter.
Yeah.
But what's the psychology behind that? Like, why are they so sticky?
Yeah, it all comes down to our brains being wired to prioritize negative information. This is called the negativity bias.
Okay.
It's really an evolutionary holdover from when our ancestors had to make these really split-second decisions about potential threats.
Right.
So even today, our brains, they tend to latch onto these negative cues much more strongly than positive ones.
Yeah.
Especially in these new situations.
So you're saying even if we make a really good first impression,
right,
one small misstep can just like really disproportionately color someone's whole perception of us.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you're much more likely to remember a rude comment somebody said than a compliment.
Oh, for sure.
Right. That's that negativity bias at work.
Yeah.
And when it comes to first impressions, that means we have to be really mindful of the signals that we're sending.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One of the sources talked about this idea of tribalware, which I thought was so fascinating. And it's this idea that fitting in with the group can make people feel comfortable.
Right.
And it reminded me of that classic advice that was given to IBM salespeople back in the day. Always wear a navy blue suit when visiting corporate clients.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why is that? Why do we care so much about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's about understanding the context and adapting your behavior to make people feel at ease.
Right.
So we subconsciously categorize people based on these very subtle cues.
Right.
And when those cues align with our expectations, We feel a sense of safety, familiarity.
Yeah.
You know? We kind of let our guard down.
Totally. I learned that the hard way. Actually, I remember my first visit to Oracle. I showed up in like my sharpest New York-style suit, feeling super confident.
Right.
And, it turns out everyone else was in like khakis and polos. I stuck out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah. That's a perfect example of even those small details.
Yeah.
Right.
Signaling whether we belong to a particular group or not.
Yeah.
And when people feel like they're part of the same tribe, they tend to be more trusting.
Right.
They're much more receptive to our message.
So you're saying that building rapport goes beyond just being friendly.
Oh, yeah.
It's about understanding, like, the unspoken rules of the tribe.
Exactly.
And adapting accordingly.
It's about putting people at ease by showing that you understand their world.
Yeah.
You're not a threat.
Yeah.
And one surprisingly important aspect of that a lot of people don't think about is the often overlooked handshake.
Okay, I gotta admit, I was really surprised by how much emphasis these sources put on the handshake.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like such a simple gesture.
It is, but it's more significant than you might think.
Okay.
So the handshake is a very powerful form of nonverbal communication.
Okay.
It's often the first physical contact we have with somebody.
Right. And it can trigger this cascade of subconscious judgments.
So it's not just about having a firm grip.
Well, it's part of it, but there's more to it than that.
Oh.
So a firm handshake can actually trigger the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
Interesting.
Which fosters feelings of trust and connection. So it's subtle, but it's a very powerful way to establish rapport from the very beginning.
Wow, I never even realized there was actual science behind a good handshake.
Yeah.
What about those who are not comfortable with physical contact? Like, is there another way to create that kind of connection?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be sensitive
Right.
to individual preferences
Right.
and cultural norms, of course.
Yeah.
But if a handshake isn't appropriate, a warm smile and genuine eye contact can be just as effective in conveying openness and sincerity.
That makes sense. So once you've made that initial connection, then what are some good ways to like break the ice and get a conversation flowing?
Well, one really effective strategy is to focus on these open-ended questions that elicit positive emotions.
Okay.
Instead of the standard, what do you do?
Right.
You could try something like, what's the story behind that?
Oh, I like that.
About something interesting.
Yeah.
Or what's your favorite thing about living in City Town?
I love those examples. Those are great. They feel much more personal and inviting.
Exactly. And it shows genuine interest in the other person.
Right.
It's about creating a space for them to share something about themselves. And once you get them talking, the key is to truly listen.
Well, and these sources really emphasize the importance of being a good listener. But that can be easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some practical tips for becoming a more attentive listener?
Well, active listening goes beyond simply hearing words. It's about being fully present, really engaged with the speaker. You have to resist the urge to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you have something brilliant to add.
I know. It's so hard.
Right. Instead, focus on understanding their perspective and reflecting back what you hear.
Okay.
So you might say, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated about, or if I understand you correctly, you're saying that.
Those are great techniques for showing that you're really paying attention.
Right.
That you value their input.
Yeah.
I could see how that would make someone feel really heard and respected.
Precisely. And when people feel heard, they're much more likely to open up and connect with you on a deeper level.
Yeah, so it sounds like active listening is just such a crucial skill.
It is.
For building rapport.
Yeah.
Fostering trust.
Absolutely.
In any interaction, really.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not about waiting for your turn to speak. It's about truly engaging with the other person.
Right.
And making them feel valued.
Exactly.
And speaking of engagement, one of the most fascinating points from these sources was this idea that we need to speak in pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was so interesting. They talked about how our brains are wired to process visuals much more readily than words.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense when you think about how quickly we get distracted by like a notification or, a captivating image or something like that.
Right. So if you want to make your message memorable, you need to tap into that visual processing power.
Right.
So think about Steve Jobs presenting the iPod Nano.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't just stand there and list the features.
Right.
He pulled it out of his jeans pocket to show how small it was.
Right.
He compared the weight to 8 quarters.
Yeah.
He was speaking in pictures.
It's such a brilliant example. You're right. He created such a vivid image in the audience's mind.
Right.
So it made the product just instantly relatable.
Exactly.
And desirable.
And that highlights the importance of storytelling.
Right.
And using visual aids to really bring your message to life.
Yeah.
So by creating that mental picture, you're engaging your audience on a much deeper level and making your message stick.
So it's not just what we say, but how we say it.
Exactly.
We need to engage both the logical and the emotional parts of the brain.
Absolutely. You appeal to both. You create a much more compelling and memorable experience for your audience.
Now let's shift gears a little bit to a topic I think a lot of people find really challenging, which is navigating those difficult conversations.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure we've all had those conversations where we need to deliver criticism, address a sensitive issue or something like that.
Right.
So how do we do that in a way that's both honest and constructive without, damaging the relationship?
Well, one of the key takeaways from these sources is the importance of timing and location. You don't want to ambush someone with criticism when they're already stressed or exhausted.
That makes sense. I mean, choosing the right time and place can really set the tone for a more productive conversation.
Exactly. It's about finding a comfortable location where the other person feels safe and heard.
Right.
One of the sources even suggests using props.
Really?
Like Play-Doh to help people relax.
Play-Doh. Interesting.
Yeah. Feel at ease during these difficult conversations.
Okay, I've never heard that one before. How does that work?
Well, I know it sounds unconventional, but it can be surprisingly effective. So giving people something to fidget with can help to diffuse some of the tension and create a more lighthearted atmosphere. It's about creating this sense of psychological safety so that the other person feels more open to hearing what you have to say.
It's a really interesting idea. I could see how it could create a less confrontational environment. It's about putting the other person at ease.
Exactly.
Rather than putting them on the defensive.
Exactly. And once you've created that sense of safety, it's important to focus on the other person's body language as well.
So, again, it's not just what we say, but how we say it.
Precisely. So when we're under stress, our brains actually prioritize these nonverbal cues over the verbal ones.
Wow.
So that means that projecting warmth and empathy through your body language is absolutely crucial, even more so than the actual words that you're using.
So even if we're saying all the right things, if our body language is closed off or aggressive or whatever, the message is not going to be received the way we intend it.
Exactly. So it's about conveying sincerity and concern through your posture, your facial expressions, your tone of voice. And this is where this fascinating concept called emotional contagion comes into play.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about this. It's this idea that our emotions can actually spread to others almost like a virus.
Precisely. So we're constantly picking up on these very subtle cues from the people around us. And those cues can actually influence our own emotional state. So if you approach a difficult conversation with anxiety and tension, it's likely that the other person is going to mirror those emotions.
So how do we use emotional contagion to our advantage in a difficult conversation?
Well, one technique is mirroring. So by subtly mirroring the other person's body language, you can create a sense of rapport, connection, which can help to de-escalate a situation.
There was a story in one of these books about someone named Darius who used this technique to win over a potential client. I thought that was so interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And he mirrored the client's body language while maintaining this really warm and open facial expression. And it seemed to really put the client at ease.
It's a great example. Mirroring can be a really powerful way to build rapport, create that sense of alignment, but it's important to do it subtly, authentically. If the other person senses that you're mimicking them, It can really backfire.
Of course.
Right.
So it's about finding that balance between mirroring their behavior, but also maintaining your own genuine presence.
Exactly.
But what about those situations where the other person is displaying like negative body language? Like, should we mirror that too?
That's where this technique called mirror and lead comes in.
Okay.
So you start by subtly mirroring their posture to establish that connection.
Okay.
And then you gradually shift your body language in a more positive direction.
So like if someone is sitting with their arms crossed and they're looking tense, you might start by mirroring that posture. And then slowly uncross your arms.
Right.
Maybe lean forward slightly.
Right.
Maintain a warm, open expression.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a very gentle way of guiding them toward this more open, relaxed state.
Right.
It's about using your own body language to subtly influence the emotional tone of the conversation.
That's interesting. This all makes me think about the connection between like our internal state and our external charisma.
Absolutely.
So like, is there a way to actually cultivate a more charismatic mindset?
Absolutely. Visualization is a very powerful technique that can really help you change your internal state and project more confidence, more charisma. One of the sources outlines a step-by-step visualization exercise where you recall a time when you felt really powerful and successful. You immerse yourself in that memory.
Right.
You see what you saw, you hear what you heard, you feel those feelings of confidence.
This reminds me of how athletes use visualization to improve their performance. Yeah. Like they'll imagine themselves succeeding, and that mental rehearsal can actually help them perform better in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same principle. By repeatedly visualizing success, you're essentially training your brain to act in a more confident, charismatic way.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's like creating a mental blueprint for success that can then translate into real-world behavior.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the more you practice these visualizations, the more natural and effortless these charismatic behaviors will become.
So you're not just faking it till you make it. You're actually rewiring your brain.
You are.
To embody those qualities.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, before we move on, let's quickly recap just the key takeaways from this first part of our deep dive.
Okay.
So we learned about the power of first impressions and how that negativity bias can really work against us.
Right.
We talked about the importance of adapting our behavior to fit the tribe.
Exactly.
And how that simple handshake can be this surprisingly powerful tool.
It is.
For building rapport.
Yep.
We also explored the importance of asking open-ended questions to get a conversation flowing.
Right.
And how active listening is so crucial.
Yeah.
For building trust.
Absolutely.
And understanding.
Right.
We also kind of delved into this fascinating world of nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
From the power of speaking in pictures.
Right.
To the subtle art of mirroring and leading with body language.
It is subtle.
Wow. That's a lot of ground we've covered already.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're just scratching the surface of what it means to be charismatic.
Yeah, we are. There's a lot more to explore.
Okay, great. So in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore this concept of warmth.
Oh, yeah.
And how cultivating a mindset of gratitude, goodwill, and self-compassion can really enhance your charismatic presence.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good.
That's going to be good.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about kind of the mechanics of charisma, like nailing that first impression and using body language effectively. But these sources also delve into something a little deeper, this idea of cultivating a charismatic mindset.
Yeah.
And they specifically highlight the importance of warmth.
Yeah.
So
it's fascinating how much warmth matters when it comes to really connecting with people. It makes us feel safe, understood. It makes us want to be around someone.
Right.
Think about the people you consider most charismatic.
Yeah.
Chances are they radiate warmth.
That's true. But how do you actually cultivate warmth? It's not like you can just flip a switch and suddenly become this like warm and fuzzy person.
Right, you're right. It's not about putting on an act.
Okay.
It's about cultivating this genuine inner warmth that then radiates outwards.
Right.
One of the sources suggests this three-step approach.
Okay.
Starting with gratitude.
Okay, gratitude makes sense. When you're feeling grateful, you tend to be, you know, more positive and upbeat and all that.
Right.
But one of the exercises they suggest is a little intense. Imagining your own funeral. Isn't that a little morbid?
It might seem that way at first, but the idea is to kind of step outside your everyday life and really appreciate the preciousness of your existence.
Okay.
So when you imagine those who would speak about you, what would you want them to say?
Yeah.
It can be a very powerful way to really connect with what truly matters.
Okay.
Cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude
Uh-huh.
for the people in your life, for the experiences you've had.
I see what you mean. So it's about kind of shifting your perspective.
Right.
And focusing on what you have rather than what you lack. But wouldn't that make you sad, thinking about your own mortality?
Not necessarily. It can actually be quite liberating.
Really?
When you kind of confront your own mortality, it can help you to let go of these petty grievances.
Okay.
Appreciate the present moment more fully.
Okay.
And that sense of peace and acceptance can actually make you more magnetic and appealing to others.
So it's not just about feeling good. It's about that inner peace kind of translating into a more charismatic presence.
Exactly.
Okay. What's the next step in cultivating warmth?
The next step is cultivating goodwill toward others.
Okay.
It's about genuinely wishing them happiness and success.
Okay.
Even if they're strangers.
That sounds lovely, but isn't that a little idealistic? I mean, we're constantly bombarded with, negative news and stories about conflict and all this stuff.
It is. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But the sources suggest this surprisingly simple visualization technique.
Okay.
Imagine people with angel wings.
Angel wings.
Really? I know it might sound a little out there, but hear me out. When you visualize someone with angel wings, even just for a moment, it can actually shift your perception.
Okay.
You start to see them as inherently good, capable of kindness and compassion.
Right.
So it can help soften your judgments and cultivate this more open and compassionate heart.
I can see how that would work. It's like giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, assuming the best in them. But isn't that a little naive? What if someone's actually done something wrong?
It's not about condoning bad behavior.
Okay.
It's about recognizing this the shared humanity in all of us.
Okay.
Even those who have made mistakes.
Right.
And that shift in perspective can really can profoundly affect how you interact with others. You carry yourself differently.
Yeah.
You speak differently. You listen differently.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's about approaching people with this sense of kindness and understanding, even when it's hard.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered gratitude.
Right.
We've covered goodwill.
Right.
What's the final step in cultivating warmth?
The final step, and perhaps the most challenging for many people, is self-compassion.
Self-compassion. I thought we were talking about being warm toward others.
It's all connected. You can't truly radiate warmth if you're constantly beating yourself up.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Self-criticism, it creates self-doubt, it undermines your confidence, it prevents you from showing up as your best self.
That's so true. It's easy to be our own worst critic.
It is.
Yeah.
But the key is to treat yourself with the same kindness.
Right.
And understanding that you would offer to a friend.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging your imperfections.
Right.
Without letting them define you.
One of the sources mentioned something called metta meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a Buddhist practice for cultivating loving kindness and compassion. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I have. I've found metta meditation to be incredibly beneficial. It involves sending positive wishes to yourself and then extending those wishes outward to others.
Okay.
So even just a few minutes of meditation can create this sense of inner peace, make you more open and receptive to others.
That sounds really powerful.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about being nice to ourselves.
Right.
We're talking about actively cultivating this sense of loving kindness.
Exactly.
But how does self-compassion translate into charisma?
When you're kind to yourself, it shows. You carry yourself with more confidence, more ease.
Yeah.
You're more likely to take risks and put yourself out there.
Okay.
And you're more forgiving of others' mistakes.
Right.
Which makes you more approachable.
Okay.
More likable.
So it's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
If you're not taking care of yourself and cultivating self-compassion, it's hard to genuinely radiate that warmth to others.
It is.
So warmth is not just about being nice or agreeable. It's about cultivating this genuine inner state
of
gratitude, goodwill, and self-compassion.
Exactly. And then that inner warmth becomes a part of who you are.
Uh-huh.
It's not something you have to force or fake.
Right.
It just naturally radiates outwards and draws people to you.
Okay, but warmth alone isn't enough.
Right.
What do you mean?
To be truly charismatic, you also need a sense of power.
Power, isn't that kind of the opposite of warmth?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I always thought of charisma as being approachable.
Right.
Likeable.
Yeah.
Not powerful or intimidating.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not about being domineering
Okay.
or aggressive. When we talk about power in the context of charisma,
Yeah.
we're talking about presence,
Okay.
confidence,
Okay.
and the ability to command attention
Uh-huh.
without demanding it.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you cultivate a sense of power without, coming across as arrogant or aloof?
It's about owning your space,
Uh-huh.
being comfortable in your own skin. One of the sources uses the analogy of a gorilla charging through the jungle.
A gorilla. That doesn't sound very warm and fuzzy.
I know, but hear me out.
Okay.
So the gorilla isn't trying to be aggressive.
Right.
He's simply taking up space.
Right.
Owning his environment.
Uh-huh.
He's not afraid to be seen and heard.
Okay, so it's about confidence and presence,
Right.
not aggression.
Right.
But how do you actually project that kind of power?
Well, your body language plays a very crucial role.
Okay.
So standing tall, keeping your shoulders back, making eye contact,
Uh-huh.
these are postures that convey confidence.
Right.
They make you appear more assertive.
Yeah, it's interesting how much nonverbal communication influences how we perceive ourselves and others.
Yeah.
I know I feel more confident when I stand up straight
Right.
and make eye contact.
Absolutely. And it's not just about physical posture. Your voice also plays a very crucial role.
Okay.
So speaking slowly, pausing for effect, dropping your intonation at the end of sentences, all these things convey a sense of authority and confidence.
So it's about being really intentional with both our words and our body language. But isn't there a risk of coming across as too rehearsed or unnatural?
There is. If we focus too much on these techniques.
Right. Like you don't want to seem like you're putting on a show.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where practice comes in.
Okay.
The more you practice these techniques, the more natural and effortless they will become.
Right.
It's like learning any new skill. At first, it feels a little awkward, a little uncomfortable, but with repetition, it becomes second nature.
So it's not about putting on a show or trying to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about developing these skills so that you can express your authentic self with more confidence and presence.
Right.
And when you combine that power with warmth, you create this really magnetic combination.
You do.
Yeah.
It's about being both strong and kind, assertive and compassionate.
Right.
It's about leading with both your head and your heart.
Okay. This is all starting to come together.
Right.
So charisma isn't about some magical quality that some people have and others don't. It's about tapping into your authentic self and expressing it with warmth, power, and presence.
It is.
I like that.
And it's a skill that anyone can develop.
Yeah.
With practice and intention.
This is all so fascinating. I'm eager to hear how we can actually apply these principles of warmth and power in practical situations like delivering criticism or navigating conflict.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore how to actually use these techniques to handle those difficult conversations with grace and confidence while maintaining strong relationships.
It's all possible.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of warmth and power and being charismatic.
Right.
But it seems like those qualities would be especially important in difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking about situations where you need to give tough feedback.
Yeah.
Or address a conflict.
Right.
So how can we do that while still, being charismatic?
Well, one key takeaway from these sources is focusing on specific behaviors rather than making these sweeping judgments about someone's character.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of saying, you're always late, you could say, I noticed you missed the deadline for this project.
Right.
It kind of takes the personal sting out of the feedback.
Right. It's about addressing the issue.
Exactly.
Without attacking the person.
Yeah.
But even when you're being specific, how do you deliver that feedback in a way that doesn't make the other person defensive?
Framing is everything.
Okay.
So instead of presenting your feedback as a condemnation, try phrasing it as a request for change.
Okay.
You could say something like, "I'm wondering if we could find a way to ensure that deadlines are met in the future."
Okay.
So it invites collaboration, problem solving, rather than putting someone on the spot.
It's a subtle shift.
It is.
But I could see how it can make a big difference in how the feedback is received.
It does.
But even with the right wording, it's still easy to get flustered.
Oh, yeah.
In a difficult conversation.
For sure.
So how do we maintain that sense of warmth and power when we're, feeling stressed or anxious?
Well, remember what we talked about earlier?
Uh-huh.
Emotional contagion.
Right.
So your emotions can influence the other person's state.
Yeah.
So if you go into a difficult conversation feeling tense and anxious, those emotions are likely to spread.
So how do we stay calm and centered when we're feeling that pressure?
Well, take a deep breath.
Okay.
Before you start speaking.
Right.
Remind yourself that this is a conversation, not a confrontation.
Okay.
Focus on your intention, which is to resolve the issue.
Right.
And maintain a positive relationship.
Right.
And remember to pay attention to your body language.
Right. We talked about how powerful those nonverbal cues can be. So even if we're saying all the right things, if our body language is closed off or aggressive or whatever, the message will be lost.
Exactly. So maintaining eye contact, using a gentle tone of voice, keeping your body language open and receptive.
Okay.
All these things help to create a safe space for the other person to hear your feedback.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment where they feel heard and respected.
Exactly.
Even if they're, receiving criticism.
Right.
Okay. What about situations where we're the ones receiving a complaint or criticism?
Yeah.
But how do we handle that with grace and charisma?
Well, first and foremost, listen attentively.
Okay.
Without interrupting. Or getting defensive.
Right.
Show that you genuinely care about their experience.
Okay.
And you're taking their concerns seriously.
Yeah, it can be tempting to jump in and defend yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you feel like you're being, unfairly criticized or something. Yeah. But it sounds like the charismatic approach is to really listen first.
It is.
Seek to understand their perspective before you offer your own.
Yeah, precisely. And once you've fully heard them out, and if you agree that you were in the wrong, offer a sincere apology. It doesn't have to be elaborate. A simple "I'm so sorry" can be incredibly powerful when it's delivered with warmth and sincerity.
That makes sense. It's about taking responsibility for your actions without getting bogged down in excuses or justifications.
Right.
But what if the other person is angry or upset? How do you de-escalate the situation without losing your own composure?
Well, remember the power of mirroring.
Oh, yeah.
You can actually use it here.
Okay.
To subtly align yourself with their emotional state. So if they're speaking quickly and loudly, you might slightly increase your own volume and pace to match theirs.
Really?
It creates a sense of understanding.
Okay.
And it can help to calm the situation.
So it's not about mimicking their anger. It's about creating a sense of connection through those subtle nonverbal cues. But what if mirroring their emotions makes you feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed or something?
Well, it's important to be mindful of your own emotional state.
Right.
If you feel yourself getting pulled into their negativity, take a step back.
Okay.
Take a few deep breaths.
Right.
Remind yourself of your intention, which is to resolve the issue and maintain a positive relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about finding that balance between empathy and self-preservation.
It is.
We need to be attuned to the other person's emotions, but without letting them completely dictate our own.
Exactly. And after you've heard them out and apologized if necessary, the next step is to take action.
So it's not just about saying the right words.
No.
It's about following through with concrete steps to correct the mistake or prevent it from happening again.
Precisely. That's what shows true sincerity.
Right.
And builds trust. It demonstrates that you're not just paying lip service. You're genuinely committed to making things right.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From first impressions to difficult conversations, from gratitude to power. So what are some key takeaways you'd like to leave our listener with?
Well, the most important takeaway is that charisma isn't about being someone you're not.
Right.
It's about tapping into your authentic self and expressing it with warmth, power, and presence.
Right.
And it's a skill that can be cultivated through practice and intention.
I love that. So it's not about putting on a show.
Right.
Or trying to be like the most charming person in the room.
Uh-huh.
It's about showing up as your best self.
It is.
Even in those challenging situations.
Yeah. And remember, these techniques aren't just for professional settings.
Right.
You can use them to improve your communication and relationships in all areas of your life with your family, friends, romantic partner.
That's a great point. I mean, these principles can really help us navigate all kinds of interactions with more grace and confidence.
Absolutely. So be curious, experiment with these techniques, and observe the impact they have on your interactions. Most importantly, have fun with it. It shouldn't feel like work.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful. I'm already thinking about how I can apply these principles in my own life. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, charisma is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
So embrace the process and enjoy the ride.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us for today's deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time.